Hi guys, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program with InterstellarOops, and this is actually a fake introduction because I've already run this mission. So we're going to jump right into it with our preparations for a moonshot. Actually, we're going to go visit the moon. So let's jump into it. Okay, and let's take a look at what we can do with that research. So we're going to want basic science because we want to get more, want to be able to get more and more science no matter where we're going. So we can grab this Science Junior. That is another experiment that we can take with us, but this is also going to give us the battery pack, which is going to let us transmit data from missions in progress and repeat those experiments. So we don't need to take up multiples of the same equipment. And what we also want is advanced rocketry that's going to give us bigger fuel tanks and also this Terrier liquid fuel engine. If we right click on that, we can actually see our specific impulse there is at sea level only 85, but it goes up to 345 in a vacuum. So we'll compare that in a second. Let's research that. Okay, so we're going to use a very similar design. We could replace all of these fuel tanks, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. We've got a couple of larger fuel tanks for our top stage here that's going to visit the moon. We've got a Science Junior to grab some data. And yeah, the rest of it is pretty much the same. So we got our boosters that will go, and then our main swivel engine, and then that will break off, and we'll have our Mooner visitor on top here. So we can check our numbers. Thrust to weight ratio is above 2, which is pretty good for liftoff. Just above 1 for our second stage, and then our third stage. Thrust to weight ratio doesn't matter as much because we'll be in space by then. So let's go ahead and get launched, and we'll hopefully be going to the moon. Now, it's pretty much a regular... Oh, I can't turn SAS on because I've got a scientist. That'll be important later. We want him to be able to reset the experiments so we can perform more experiments while we're at the moon. So that may or may not work out. We'll find out. Yeah, nothing left to it but to launch. So we're going to do the same rotation to make sure it biases towards the correct direction. And it's doing exactly what we want it to. It's kind of leaning over. And I did forget, but our speed, altitude, yep, there we go. We completed that contract. Looks like we're getting a little bit off track here. Wasn't paying attention. And I'm going to activate this engine and just let those go. And now that we have the swivel activated, we can actually kind of direct ourselves. Oh. And I forgot I don't have SAS already, so I have to manually kind of target this thing, which is not easy, especially when we start going to map view. So you can see I overshot there to try and get this prograde marker back on the 90-degree line, which is kind of important for us on this mission, because we want to be going as close to horizontal as possible. We don't want to be in this kind of orbit. So let's take a look at our apoapsis. 50K. And we can just let that push out. Still manually kind of targeting this. And I think we're going to do just fine here. Even though my terrible piloting skills are showing. So 65. And we're not doing too badly. We got plenty of fuel left. And let's circularize at 80 kilometers. So we'll push our apoapsis out to there. And I did just realize that we don't have patched conics, so we don't have the ability to set a course, create a maneuver node. That'll all become clear later what I mean by that. But for now, let's just concentrate on getting into orbit, and we'll be able to. So we're getting close to our apoapsis. Maybe wait just a little bit longer. Now we don't have to be perfectly circular for this. It's kind of not a big deal where we end up in our orbit of this one. So as long as we're above, we're good. So let's push ourselves into orbit. So we got about, what, 800 meters per second to go. And we can start to see we're getting faster and faster, and we'll eventually go fast enough that we'll miss the planet entirely. Okay, so our first stage is expended. We can let that go, and that will happily go crash down into the planet over there. And we can see, we're going faster and faster. I'm getting further and further off course. So, our periapsis. Oh, I'm doing a terrible job of piloting. Alright, our periapsis is above 70 kilometers, so we're getting out of the atmosphere. We're good. That is terrible. So, we are in orbit. We have 1600 delta V left. And yeah, time to start looking at our moonshot. And there it is. So what we're going to do is burn straight towards it. Now this doesn't always work, because we have no way of knowing exactly where our orbit is going to take us until we manage it. So this is a pretty big risk, but we're going to give it a try. So we're going to fire up our engine, and what you'll notice, if I can stay on course, is our apoapsis. We're going to push and push, so we're going faster and faster, and it's going to take us all the way out to, there we go, we've got an encounter with the moon. So here we go. Looks like our closest encounter is going to be 481 kilometers. let's see if we can... I don't want to bring it down too much, because if we get too close, then it's really going to start affecting our ability to get back, because it's going to wing us out. We can already see this. Once we encounter it here, it's actually going to fling us further into orbit out here, and then we'll come back around. So we don't want to get too close. We don't want to be slingshotted all the way outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence. So this actually looks pretty good. And if we had the ability to create maneuver nodes, then we could actually make this much better so it was a free return, but we can't do that right now. So let's go ahead and time warp, and we can see we're gradually, it looks like the moon is way too far away and we're not going to hit it, but we slow down as we approach it, and we're actually going to get just a little bit closer, and we can see that, there we go. So it looks like our periapsis has changed position there, but that's just because of the way that it's represented in the orbit. So what we can do here, we'll take a crew report, take a look at the mystery goo. Yep, 20 science for that. Goo seems to be less dense here. Take the temperature. Measuring the temperature space appears to be quite impossible. There is no matter around to be either hot or cold. Let's take, of course we know that the result will be of the pressure barometer. Instrument reads 0 because there's no pressure. 24 science for that. And we can also take Bob out and get an EVA. Oh, and let's take a look at our Science Junior. 50 science for that. So we'll keep a hold of that. And what we'll do is we'll use Bob, and because we're going to be going in for a bit of a hot re-entry, we don't want to risk our bits blowing off and losing our data. So let's grab all of the data from these devices so that we can take them into the pod with us. So if anything blows off, then we've still got the data from them. And I think I need to get the pressure. Okay, so let's restore that. Lock that. Let's store our experiments here. Oh. There we go. And we'll reset this one. And this is why we brought Bob along, because he can actually restore those and let us rerun those experiments as well, which is really handy. So that's done. Now we just have to wait until we've flown by the moon. And let's take a look. That puts us into this really weird orbit. Now the only way to get out of this with this little delta V is to fly all the way out to here, and that's going to give us our best fuel efficiency to bring that periapsis in. So that's exactly what we're going to do. we'll just time accelerate and ignore that for now. We'll time accelerate, and we can see here 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. So that's been 4 days in the making to get Bob out to here. And what we'll do now is point retrograde to slow ourselves down in this orbit, and we're going to fire. And we can see that brings that periapsis in, and we'll bring it down to maybe 35 kilometers. Oh, went a little too far there. Now if we go too deep into it, then we're going to hit, oh, if we go deep into the atmosphere, we're going to hit thicker atmosphere and heat up way too much. If we and probably explode, but if we have just the right height, about 35, I'm gonna say. 37's good. If we go too high, then we'll just kind of skip off the atmosphere, and then it'll take us ages to go down and down into deorbiting. So what this is going to do is let us aerobrake. It's going to use the atmosphere to bring our speed down as we pass through it. There we go, 36. Okay, so let's see if we can pull this off. And we're going to accelerate to get us down towards the planet. Okay, and don't want to go too crazy here. Weird things happen with the physics if you time accelerate into the atmosphere too heavily. So there we go. We're below 70,000 kilometers. I think we might be coming in too hot, but we'll separate. Oh, still time accelerated, I think. Oh no, no, no. There we go. Oh, that could have been very bad. Bob's doing the best he can. So he is we almost had a problem. I think we're good. I think we're good. So we're bringing down our speed. Let's see if any researchers, there we go. If we can get any research as we're crashing through the atmosphere, or maybe a crew report. Ooh, pressure data. There we go. We've got all of the research that we can get now. And we can see we're almost at our periapsis. And that is as we're bleeding off speed in the atmosphere, that's bringing our speed down. So instead of shooting way back off, we're coming in, still whizzing through the atmosphere, 2.5 kilometers a second. And yep, it looks like that is definitely going to do it for us. Yep, apoapsis is in atmosphere, so we're definitely deorbiting. And we're still bleeding off speed. So that's how to use aerobraking to bring a highly elliptical orbit and not use as much fuel. So we've lost all of this speed without expending a single ounce of fuel on our D-orbit. And there's the moon on the horizon, just like when we left. Still crashing through this atmosphere, but our speed is coming down pretty drastically now. And just while we're waiting, let's get our drogue chutes in the correct spot. Our speed. So this is going to stop the fireball real soon. And this, of course, is the superheated gases from the friction that are tearing away this ablative shield. And it looks like Bob has survived. First attempt, which is quite impressive, really. So there we go. I'm going to fire our drogue chutes and our main chute. That'll go off in a short while, and I will see you guys on the ground. Just about to crash down. Splash down. Hopefully more of a splash than a crash. Alright, and recover that. And let's take a look at our Hall of Science. Okay, so 179.5 science earned from that. Looks like we did pretty well on funds there as well. Bob got advanced level 1. Okay, so that is the end of that mission. I'm going to take a look at what research is available for next time, and yeah, we'll put that science to use. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again soon.